What's up, everybody? How y'all doing? I'm doing great. Hope you are too. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Launch Podcast. Today's episode is with Mountaineer and adventurer Kim Hess. Kim is on her way to conquering the 7 summits of the world, meaning the highest points on each of the world's 7 continents. She has one more to go, which is Australia. In this episode, we talk about chilling stories from Mount Everest and also Denali, where she broke her arm on her descent down from the summit. We also talk about going for your dreams, what it takes to do so, and what it takes to live the adventure life that you have always dreamed of. I hope you enjoy this episode. Music today is brought to you by NoMB. You can find him on Instagram at NoMB. That's NoMBE. The song you are listening to right now is called Wait, and the song that takes us out of this podcast today is called Young Hearts. Enjoy. Kim, thank you for an awesome episode. All right, let's roll this thing. See y'all at the top. All right, well, let's jump in. We got a little bit of time. So, thank you for coming down to the library and doing this podcast with us, of course, and also congratulations.
Thank you.
Like, I know you're out there trying to inspire women, but you know you're inspiring a lot of dudes too, so
hell yeah. Who would have thought?
But so now you've summited 6 of the highest peaks, or the highest peaks on 6 of the world's 7 continents.
Correct.
That's a tough one to get out.
It's a tongue twister. Yeah. Yeah, so of the 7 summits, which is the tallest peak on each continent, I've done 6.
That's amazing. Has that settled in at all yet?
I mean, it's starting to, because I leave next Monday to do the last one.
Awesome.
So it's starting to kind of settle that this is all I've been doing for the last 7 years.
It's been 7 years now?
It's been 7 years.
Wow.
So it's been like the thing that keeps me up at night and the thing that wakes me up in the morning for 7 years. And now that it's done, I'm kind of like, now what?
So it's been 1 a year?
Some of them, 1 year we did 3, and then I had some accidents and had to take almost 2 years off. So that was an unintentional
we'll talk
gap.
about the accidents.
Yeah.
So the one that's left is Australia.
Yeah.
It's basically, from what I understand, it's just a hike.
It's a hike. Yeah.
No worries, no concerns.
The biggest concern will be getting my parents to the top. Because they're not in the greatest shape and they're pushing 70s. So that will be the hardest
There's
part.
no like crocodile moat going around this mountain or anything? It's just...
it's Australia's ski hill, so there is a chairlift.
Oh, okay.
That apparently cuts off like the biggest vertical stretch, not that many miles, but a big chunk of the vertical. So I think we're gonna put mom and dad on the chairlift.
Yeah,
and my brother and I will
awesome.
do the full.
And I thought that was really cool when reading about your story that that you've done this with your brother. Right?
Yeah.
All of them. He's in it too.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I mean, it was very candidly, it was a drunken bet.
I literally was going to ask, was this like, was it a barred bet or?
Pretty much. I mean, after college, I moved to Sydney, Australia, which is ironic that now I'm going back to Australia to do the last one. But I moved to Sydney for 2 years and then had a job and would travel and work and travel and work and travel. And after 2 years, my visa expired and I had to come home, and I was home for Christmas. And my brother and I were just sort of rip-roaring drunk. And he's the oldest and I'm the youngest of 4. And he was somewhat jealous that I had been to more countries than he had. And I just was like, okay, well, let's go. Like, I don't have a job. I don't have an apartment. I have a backpack.
I'm the
and a
perfect
storage
candidate
unit,
for
right?
this.
I'm like, you've got money. I don't have any money. This will be
Exactly.
great. And so he came up with the 7 summits. I guess it was something that he had read. And I just said, great, whatever.
Totally.
And the next morning was kind of like, what the hell did I just agree to?
Well, look at you now.
I know, but it's been fun. I mean, like I said, he's the oldest and I'm the youngest. And I think we're almost 7 years apart. So to be able to kind of do something like this with a sibling is pretty special, and I'm learning incredibly unique.
Oh, absolutely. And the bond is probably just so strong now because you're obviously, you're in life-threatening positions together, all this, that, and the other. So, to do that with a loved one is just, that's an awesome part of the story. So what was the first peak you did?
So the first peak, first, okay, the plan was hatched, and then we started doing some research, and we thought, well, let's try to do the Colorado Trail first and see, one, can we even tolerate each other without adult supervision? We hadn't lived in the same house in so long, and he was always the babysitter. I'm like, I don't even know if I really like you that much to like commit to this.
It's a massive commitment.
You know? Mm-hmm. And he felt the same way. So we did the Colorado Trail from Denver to Durango and survived and didn't kill each other.
What month did you do it in?
The first time we tried to do it, we went in like early May.
Okay.
And it was a big snow year for us. Right. And it got to a point like the 6th or 7th segment where, we were in snowshoes the entire way. You couldn't find the route. It was just miserable. Yeah. So we threw in the towel. And then at the end of the summer, we decided to come in from the other side and see if we could connect, which we did, and realized through hiking is not our thing.
That's my thing.
I'm sure it's great if you do it with a group of people, or even if you had like a dog.
Yeah.
But to do it with just my brother and nobody else, it was just Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, what do you want to do today? Like walk for 25 miles? Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's do that. And we were on a strict time schedule, and so it kind of took the fun of just, today we don't feel like doing anything, let's just stay here, or we're by a lake, let's just enjoy the lake for a couple days. We always had to get up and move, so that 100%. Wasn't our thing, but we didn't kill each other. So after that, we researched some guide companies and basically got some advice on, we want to do the 7 summits, what do you think the best way to tackle them is? And they basically suggested starting down in South America and doing Aconcagua for a couple reasons. One, it's the highest mountain outside the Himalayas, so it's a good place to kind of get a taste of the altitude and see, can you handle it? Because some people just can't. Their bodies, for whatever reason, just doesn't do well at altitude. So to get up to almost 23,000 feet was a good place to start. It also wasn't technical in the slightest, but you get to learn how to work with a team. There is you are roped up, so you kind of start to practice the whole glacier travel, doing an ice arrest and crampons and all that. So you get a taste of that, and then it's also relatively inexpensive. I think the expedition cost was maybe $4,500 to the guide company plus airfare. So it was kind of a good way to dip our toes in without investing too much money and time, but to really get up high and see, do we like it and can we do it? So we started there and it went great.
So what were the nerves like? You've done 14ers, of course. You're from Colorado, so you've been up high before, but that's 22,000 feet?
22,800.
Yeah, so did you have some nerves going up there, or were you just like, oh, whatever, just walking up a hill?
Yeah, I think I was 26. I had been living in Steamboat for a couple of months. I was just kind of in la land. I'm pretty sure I just rolled up to that puppy and was just like,
isn't it funny?
This will be great.
Yeah, I find that a lot in adventurers, that there's not this, they all have this sort of just go for it mentality, where almost the negative situations aren't even in the head. It's just like, okay, I've done this, so I must be prepared for that.
Totally. It's the naive mindset of a 20-something-year-old with no career and, sort of lost, I'm sure my brother, if you asked him the same question, would have a very different perspective. But I definitely wasn't nervous going into it, but it was pretty funny. The minute I showed up in Mendoza, Argentina, and realized that the entire team was men, with the exception of one woman who was much older and ended up only making it a couple days and then bailing for medical reasons. So I was on a team with basically just men, which it's ironic that I have 3 older brothers, because that's kind of my comfort. Being in a male-dominated sport, it didn't bother me, but it was interesting immediately to see their reactions when they saw my gender, my size, and my age. And right away,
which is 5 foot what?
5'3" at the time. I was like 110 pounds, 26 years old. Just like, hey everybody,
go to the summit.
Let's go on a wine tour afterwards.
Where's après?
Right, exactly. Just complete just a complete joke, really. and they all, I mean, they're all dear friends now, but you know, they've all admitted that the minute they saw me, they're like, oh God, she's going to be the weakest link. She's not going to be able to do her,
probably start getting a lot of unsolicited advice.
Totally. Or like, oh, I'll carry that. Or,
right.
You know, like when you split up like the group gear, like, you know, they try to give me a lighter load. I'm like, I can carry just as much as any of you. Just, you know.
I'll bench press you.
Yeah, just watch. Like, don't judge me. And, you know, sure as shit, I beat all the boys at the top. So
that's a little bit of fuel, right?
Totally.
Of course you did.
Just laughing.
But so I was doing a little homework and research on you, of course. And well, nothing crazy yet. But I was going to ask because when doing my research, I found out that on your first summit day, your first summit attempt of Aconcagua? Is that
Aconcagua.
Aconcagua.
Mm-hmm.
There were 4 other expeditioners died that day? Is that right?
Yeah.
Not in your group, but on the mountain?
Yeah.
So I was going to ask, like, did that have an impact on you going forward? Or were you still just like, Kim, like, oh, whatever? Like,
I mean, I think, you know, looking back now, there are definitely different parts of each expedition where I become a little less naive and I realize, you know, I'm not invincible and there is some serious risk involved in the sport. And yeah, I mean, summit day, it was really cold. I remember being really cold. And I also remember hearing that a couple of climbers had left like 12 hours before us and hadn't checked in. And they were climbing without a guide company. They were 4 independent guys.
okay.
And then a couple hours into our summit morning, we were at this pass called Independencia Pass. And there used to be an old like rescue shelter. It almost looks like a coffin, but with like an A-frame roof, and most of the roof had been ripped off. And I went up to look at this shelter, and like the sun was coming up, and I was going to take a picture, and I look in, and there's a dead person, and I'm just like, holy fuck.
Oh, wow.
That person's dead. And, you know, I turn around, and I look at our guide, and I was like, Mike, there's a dead person. And he's like, just walk away from that. I'm like, what? You know, and so I leave, and it was one of the guys that had left earlier, supposedly, and had passed away. So, you know, that was nerve-wracking in the moment, but our guide and now good friend Mike was just kind of like, you know, you just need to stay focused. And so then we continued, and then there was this other little spot called the Cave, I believe, and another one of those guys died in the cave. And so, you know, you hear about this, and I mean, it was scary and hard to see, but I didn't know the person, you know, it wasn't, right. I don't know, it was just a body. Mom didn't like hearing that story.
Of course
at the end of the trip. So, yeah, so there was some explaining to do after that one.
Wow. All right, so I know you said it kind of started as a bar bet, but upon further research, it seems like you've always sort of had a dream of at least going for Everest, maybe not all 7 or for higher peaks and you know, bigger mountains, and pursuing dreams, which you've certainly done and are currently seeing through almost 100%, which is just totally rad. But I read a quote from you that says, "Don't let your dreams be your dreams, or don't let your dreams be dreams."
Yeah, I said that?
Maybe.
Go me.
It was there.
It was there. Oh, that was deep.
What do you have to say to people that are going for their dreams? I mean, fear can exist in big alpine, but it can also exist on a much smaller level. And sometimes it can be motivating, other times it can be crippling. For you, what really do you think pushed you to pursue your dream?
I mean, well, 2 things. One, you know, everybody always asks me, you know, are you scared? Were you scared? Blah, 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 throughout these expeditions. Of course. I mean, fear is a good thing. You know, fear keeps us in check. It keeps us safe. If you don't have fear in life, I worry for you because you are so disconnected. So, you know, fear is good. My message to people is just don't let it run your life. Just help, you know, listen to your body and your mind and just let it guide you instead of stop you. So if I had let fear stop me, you know, I probably would never have done any more than that first peak, solely because the fear of committing to something and seeing it through, or the fear of coming up with the financial commitment to do these mountains. I mean, so much of my fear has nothing to do with the physical climb or the training or whatever. It's all the outside stuff, It's
same here.
It's the fear of, doing a podcast or being the center of attention.
It's so funny you say that. I mean, just doing a podcast is something I was fearful of. But I just ran to it, and with any guest that I ask, I'll be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't ask them. Maybe this, that, and then finally I just send out the message, and before you know it all Yeah. It's all the outside stuff.
It's all the outside stuff.
It's in the brain.
It's different for everybody. I think my brother would say one of his biggest fears was the physical part of climbing these mountains. He is a businessman with a 9-to-5 job and travels, several days a week. And, his fear is probably, can I get ready for it? Whereas mine was, where the hell am I going to find this fucking money to go?
Yeah.
Or, a big fear has been putting myself out there. I'm a pretty private person. I don't like reading about myself. I don't like doing interviews. That totally. Stuff has always been a big fear of mine. And it's something that I've had to deal with in 100%. Order to get where I want to go. So that's, an example of, it scares the shit out of me, but I'm not going to let it control or stop where I want to go.
That's awesome. Yeah. So sometimes I'm like, Zach, are you an idiot? This is a total double-edged sword. You pick something that's tough and you're kind of scared of, but then I do this thing where I tell everybody I'm doing it, so it forces me to do it.
Yes.
Because if not, then no one's. I'll just be like, oh, whatever. I'll just go on a little desert road trip instead of doing a big trail.
This is my sticky note theory. So I have a sticky note theory, and it's. I'll give you the brief rundown of it. But basically,
please.
As a child, my mother used to put sticky notes on everything, like soccer practice, 3:00 or whatever, and it was so annoying to me as a child. I'm like, I know I have soccer practice. I know I need to take my lunch. I know these things. I don't, But as I grew up, I found myself writing things down on sticky notes and sticking them around. And some of the things I would write down are goals that I had. And so this theory of mine is, take a sticky note and you can write down whatever it is you want to do. So I, could have written down, I want to climb the 7 summits and put it, on the mirror in my bathroom. And then I've, sort of said it, but I haven't said it, because who's actually going to see that? Maybe a close friend, a boyfriend, who's going to be in my bathroom, right? Not that many people. And even if they do see it, it's all going to be people that know me really well and love me. And if I choose not to do it or I fail, they're not going to judge me for it, right? They're still just going to be supportive. But it's not until you take that sticky note and you start telling people and you say, hey, I'm going to climb the 7 summits. And then all of a sudden you have this accountability from these people because you've put it out there. It's in print. It's on your Facebook. It's whatever. And all of a sudden, if you don't do it or you don't give it hell trying, everybody's going to know.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the biggest motivator.
I love it. Totally. It's, once again, double-edged sword, but it works. It definitely works. All right. Well, let's talk about Everest for a minute.
Sure.
Why not? Let's talk about the highest one. So, where to even begin? Your first attempt, unfortunately, that was the massive earthquake, correct?
Correct.
And so you got turned around.
Yeah. Boy, we got shut down quick, 2015. And leading up to it, it was kind of, Everest was always the reason I was afraid to commit to the 7 summits, not because I was afraid of Everest or afraid of doing it. I didn't know where I was going to find, $80,000 to actually complete it, because it's not just the money to the guide company, it's your airfare, and it's if something goes wrong and you have to take a helicopter. It's so expensive just across the board. And after coming out of 2 years of rehabbing some injuries, I somehow finally managed to get the money together for Everest, right? Like fucking miracle. And
did you get a lot of sponsorships now?
I did fundraising. I had some sponsorships, and then just some big personal anonymous donations.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And it all came together, and I literally had to the penny enough money to go. Had to talk to my landlord about getting a break on my rent while I'm gone for 3 months.
Can I get that security deposit?
And thank God he was awesome and a great friend, and was just like, how about I just charge you $100 for every month that you're gone as a storage fee, and so that's how close I was cutting it. And then the other big piece was my brother had quit his job because he had gotten engaged and he and his wife were traveling around the world. And she had quit her job as well. And so I was like, hey, I got the money. Like, we got to put our deposit down in 2 days. And he's like, I can't do that.
So that's how you ended up going alone.
So that's how I ended up going alone. And we went back and forth. I mean, he was somewhere in Southeast Asia. So, trying to connect and have a serious conversation was virtually impossible. And he was just like, I don't understand why you can't wait. And I'm like, I have the money. And if I keep waiting for when it's right for you,
right,
how do I know that, once you and Nicole get married, that she's not going to get pregnant right away? Yeah. And then you're going to ask me to push it back again. And so that was a huge decision that I had to make that, obviously hurt my brother and pissed him off. And I just knew that I couldn't put my life on hold for somebody else, because it wasn't just my brother and I now, it was my brother, myself, and his wife. So I went. So, that alone was,
So that's a whole new set of nerves, huh? Going out alone, or was it liberating? Or
for me, it was sort of liberating on some levels, just because going back to when I graduated college, I moved to Sydney, Australia to kind of start over and to figure out who I want to be and where do I fit in this world and what's my purpose. And ended up meeting a boy like 5 days into this solo adventure and, fell in love, and we dated for 5 years. So I never kind of got that solo kind of journey that I wanted. So part of me was super excited because this was going to be, 9 weeks of me. Just nobody knows
certainly
me.
Bit off a big piece there.
Yeah. And I was stoked. Of course I was sad my brother wasn't going, but I was excited. And then there was an earthquake.
Yeah.
Like 5 weeks into the trip.
So you were above the main avalanche.
So there was a 7.8 earthquake. It was April 25th around noon, and it shook for, I think it was about 1 minute and 45 seconds.
Holy shit!
It's like, that's a long fucking earthquake, right? And we were at Camp 2, which is 23,000 feet. So you're above the Khumbu Icefall, which is the moving glacier part in between base camp and Camp 1. Which tends to be the most dangerous part.
Moving glacier?
Yeah, it moves all the time.
So you can feel it shift?
You don't feel it shift, but you'll hear avalanches kick off because the ice is moving, in different temperatures throughout the day and stuff. So we were above that, but kind of sitting in this fishbowl, basically surrounded on 3 sides by the west shoulder of Everest, and then you have Lhotse, which is like the 3rd or 4th tallest mountain, don't quote me on that, and then Nuptse on the other side. And kind of where we were sitting once the earthquake stopped, we got hit by 3 different avalanches, but all managed to get caught in a crevasse just shy of camp, with the exception of the one that came down Lhotse, and we got hit with the powder cloud, which...
So it stopped before it reached you?
It stopped before it reached us, but...
That's something
slightly
else.
Suffocating to...
Yeah, because you're just breathing in ice particles, essentially.
Yeah.
It's much thicker air.
Yeah, so that sucked. And then below us at Camp 1, we had another group out of our big expedition team, and they got hit, I think, by 2 avalanches down there. And then there was base camp, and base camp basically just got hit by one big blast, and it was a big serac that broke off and shot down, and instead of stopping in this super deep ravine, kind of this rocky ravine where you would have thought it would have stopped, it just shot boulders the size of houses out.
Oh wow, yeah, I didn't even think about just the sheer force of moving rock.
Yeah, and there's, I'm not even going to try to say it because I don't even know, but there was some comparison to like the atomic bomb and what that blast would have been, and it was significant. Wow. I mean, it blew stuff down valley a mile. So demolished the middle of base camp.
Whew.
Yeah.
Wow. So that attempt was wrapped up at that point, and then
wrapped up.
Then you took another? Was it the following year that you went for it again, or did you go for Denali in between, or had that already happened?
Yeah. So Denali was before Everest. Okay. So after the earthquake. Obviously, it affected all of Nepal. So it took us almost 3 weeks to actually get out of Nepal. And I went to Thailand and just got drunk on a beach and just said, fuck it. Like, I'm not ready to come home and, face the music.
Right.
Because obviously everybody knew. And to come back to Steamboat is...
Was that 2015?
2015,
right,
yeah.
because that was the year they did the Adventurers Steamboat thing.
Yes.
And we were there for the Pacific Crest Trail thing, and I think you were supposed to go, but you were gone.
I was already gone again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, coming back to this community is great, but it also, there were a lot of people that had a lot of questions about that expedition.
Yeah, it's small. Everybody knows you, and there's this pressure you put on yourself and that you get from other people.
Yeah, totally. And, the last thing I wanted to do was come home and talk about, a very personal, life-changing moment. So I took some time, finally came home, and when I was in Thailand, I basically made a deal with myself that if my travel insurance claim came back at a certain number, I would return to Everest in 2016. And just kind of, made this deal with myself. And I said, if the money doesn't come back at this number, then I'm just going to walk away for a bit, because it was so life-changing and so much more than, did I feel like I was going to die? Maybe. But so many other things wrapped up into what happened that I was like, maybe I need to take a step back. And then, of course, I got that check that I wanted. So back I went in 2016.
Sure is funny how the world works, huh?
Right?
Oh, man.
And thank God, because it would have just eaten me up. If I didn't go back in 2016, it would have just ruined my life until I went back.
Yeah, I have it's going to happen no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of friends that didn't return in 2016, and it's, it's all you think about. It eats you alive.
Yeah, that's kind of the situation I'm in right now. It's like there's so many long trails to do, and each year that I put one off, I'm just thinking about it.
It's all you think about.
It's all I think about. It's the only thing I'll think about. Like,
it's so consuming.
Could be in a job that I love, but I'm still thinking about, doing the Colorado Trail or doing the Continental Divide Trail or running this ultra race or that one. It's like, you just got to do it.
Totally, because it will ruin your daily routine if you don't.
And, so many people are like, oh, well, you're getting to be this age, like, you gotta, but it's like, all right, well, whatever. Like, I'm in the really small percentage of people that want to do this stuff, and that's what's really important. And I don't even care what lies after it. I just want to knock off as many adventure feats as possible.
While you can.
While I'm, like, totally able to do it.
Healthy and not tied down.
Yeah, right? That's massive.
Yeah, that's my thing. I'm like, look, I'm not married. I don't have kids.
Yeah.
I'm sort of starting to make a career out of this. So why would I stop now? I'm having a blast.
No, totally. Keep going. Don't let anybody stop
I've got the rest of my life to
settle
down. You know what I mean? I mean, it's
for
like...
sure. Whatever. We don't have to banter about that, but
We're on the same page.
All right, but we haven't even gotten to going up Everest yet. So... technicality-wise, like, are there technical spots? Is it more of the rumors are out there that it's not even the hardest peak, but what's it like going up that mountain? What's it like being on the top? And can you sort of put into words that feeling of when you're on the highest point on the planet? Yeah,
so Everest is not technical by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, the commercial routes, right? You can make that mountain as hard as you fucking want, but the commercial route is not technical. There's fixed lines all the way to the summit that a team puts in every single year, but I don't care who you are. Climbing up Mount Everest is fucking hard.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel good, and it's not easy. I mean, I say it was... And somebody is going to yell at me for this because I've always said it's easy. It is easy. But it's not, walking up a 40, 60 degree slope with your ankles out like this for 3 hours on a pitch is awful.
Yeah.
It's not technical, but if you can't get your feet like that and make your ankles stay, you're going to go for the ride of a lifetime. So it's awkward and it's tough. That being said, I think the coolest part of the entire mountain are two places. And one is the Khumbu Icefall. So once you leave base camp, you kind of navigate through this amazing icefall up to Camp 1 takes anywhere from 4 to 6 hours, depending on your fitness and how long you've been there. So like the first time you do it, it might take you 6 hours, but on your summit rotation, it might only take you 3.5. But it's like the greatest adult playground you could ever think of. And it's also the scariest. And for whatever reason, it didn't terrify me like it did a lot of my teammates. I mean, people did not want to go through that section at all. And I just thought, what's the problem? I mean, we're walking across ladders. We're looking down to the center of the earth. Like, literally, like, walking under these seracs that are the size of like a 4-story building. I'm like, this is cool.
Yeah, blue sky, blue ice.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and just like the history of the mountain and the ice, and I mean that kind of shit blows my mind. Kind of like when I think about the galaxies, right?
Right, it's just so overwhelming.
It's so overwhelming, and I just think it's so cool. I mean, sure, the first ladder you get to scared the shit out of me. Because it's like you have to walk across like an aluminum ladder that you get at Ace or whatever with your crampons on. So you got these spiky things that you need to walk, and like it's not like you have anything to balance on. You do have hand ropes, but it's not like rigid, you know. It's not like
there's a lot of play in them.
Tons of play. I mean, like when you let go, they drop. They drop
man.
And swing beneath the ladder. So they're really only there for a little bit of support. You kind of like hold them behind you and you lean forward and you let the tension of your body weight. So
right, I was asking, did you pull them tight, like towards you? Or
you pull them behind you and you
right.
lean forward. So you're not even standing upright, which is just a very odd feeling and sort of disconcerting. But I mean, the first ladder I got to, I'm like, you know, God did not give me 3 older brothers to be a pussy. Just go.
Best line that's been delivered on this podcast.
So I went, and, you know, I'm laughing the whole way across. But, you know, inside, I'm like, did I just pee my pants? Maybe. So, I mean, the ice fall's cool. It's difficult. I mean, you gain almost 2,000 feet in such a short stretch. So it's physically really tough. I mean, these vertical ladders, sometimes you'll get 4 vertical ladders, which doesn't sound like a big deal to climb up a ladder, but when you're doing it at 19,000 feet with the 40-pound pack on.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen people walk upstairs here in Steamboat.
Right. I mean, I was huffing and puffing coming up here, but, you know, that's neither here nor there. So the ice fall is super cool. And then it's, you know, essentially just sort of walking to Camp 2 from 1, and then you get the Lhotse face.
What are the elevations at Camp 1 and 2?
Camp 1 is 19,500.
Okay.
Camp 2 is 2,300.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then you move up the Lhotse face, which also is a pretty scary stretch just because it's so steep and so exposed, and it's a mix between like hard blue ice, soft snow, and rock, which is just a fucking mess, you know? Yeah. Sometimes you'll get like great contact with your crampons, and then other times you'll take a step and slide down like 4 feet. So it's just a brutal slog. It takes forever, and when you get to the top where you camp, you're at 26,000 feet.
Are you oxygen on the whole time?
No,
this
is
not.
No oxygen.
None?
Yeah.
So when do you get oxygen? When do you do that?
Oh wait, no, Camp 2 is 22,000. 21,000. What did I say? 23?
I don't know.
It's 21,300. Mm-hmm. And Camp 3 on the Lhotse face is 2,400. No oxygen. So one of your rotations, the guide company that I use, and everybody does it slightly different, but one rotation you have to get through is your first go up the Lhotse face. You have to get to Camp 3. You have to spend the night without oxygen. And that's kind of the benchmark. If you can't make it through that night, you don't get to go to the summit.
And were you able to sleep? Like you were adapted?
So I had super bad bronchitis.
Okay.
Which just made that day awful. I mean, that was the only day on the mountain I really kind of doubted if I could do it. I knew I was strong enough to get to the summit, but when you have bronchitis, you have bronchitis. And like you're coughing every step of the way. It's awful. And there's no air, so you just feel like you're having an asthma attack.
Right.
It's awful. So no, I didn't sleep all that great, but mostly because I was sick and just kind of anxiety from feeling like I can't breathe from being sick.
Yeah.
You kind of start hallucinating a little bit.
And for me, when I'm deprived of oxygen, I don't want to say irritable. It's not like other people are really irritating me. I just get so uncomfortable.
Oh,
like
yeah.
you want to like rip out of your skin. It's like you're rolling around in your tent.
I threw my water bottle at my brother's head so hard for no reason. I mean, he was annoying the shit out of me, but I also,
it's just amplified.
Yes.
Something is not right with your brain.
Yes. And then it's just
oxygen.
amplified. And, everybody was in the same boat. And all you wanted to do was just get up and get the hell down. So then the next time we would come up would be on our summit rotation. And we would have oxygen that night at Camp 3. So, so we wouldn't get oxygen until our summit rotation at 24,000 feet.
Okay.
And then you cruise on up to Camp 4. And then I think the next stretch that can be pretty intimidating. Ironically, I didn't know how intimidating it was until I was coming back down, because on my summit rotation, you're in the dark, and there was a full moon, and you could see for days, but you still have a really hard time.
You got to see the full moon on Everest?
Yeah.
Dude,
I know. And
Dream.
Don't let me forget, I've got something to tell you about full moons.
Okay.
So it's a full moon, right? And you're coming up this southeast ridge, and it's gorgeous, and you can just see like down into Nepal forever, and like down into Tibet and China forever, and it's unbelievable. But I don't know if it's the darkness or you're just so damn focused to get to the summit, but you don't see the exposure. And so once you get up the ridge and you get to the south summit, which from the south summit you can see the summit, but it is still a very long ways away. You go across this Cornice Traverse, and coming down, I was just like, holy shit. I mean, it's 11,000 feet down into Tibet or 9,000 feet down into Nepal.
Wow.
And it's like this wide.
Wow.
So that section on the way down, I'm like, thank God I didn't see this going up, because I probably would have had to compose myself.
Mm-hmm. Take some deep breaths.
Yeah,
but again, for what it's worth.
But again, it's not technical. It's not hard. I mean, it's tricky, footwork, and I don't think people give the footwork and kind of.
So what's with the footwork? And when you're for you listening out there, the feet are going pointed outward.
Yeah, like a duck walk.
Yeah, so duck footed going up, and it's just more stable, or because you're on a more of a knife, or.
Well, so when going up the Lhotse face, you're supposed to kind of switch up so your ankles don't feel like they're breaking. And the hard part is when you're in this duck stance, you have to roll your ankles out to make sure that you get all of your crampons to connect with the ice. So again, a very unnatural feeling to be that steep and then have to roll your ankles out. It just feels awful.
Yeah, nothing looks very comfortable about going up Everest. You look like you're in a spacesuit.
Yeah, it sucks. You're just like a cooking chicken with sore ankles. And then they say try to switch and do a crossover walk, so your feet are perpendicular to the mountain, and so you get a little bit of relief. But when it's super steep, you just can't do that. The only way to do it is a duck walk. So that sucks. And then the Cornice Traverse, is a little hilly. So your feet are flat, but it's one foot in front of the other. And there's a lot of slick limestone and snow. And so it's just uneven, variable conditions that makes it tricky. That, if you're not paying attention and you get all of your crampons on the limestone, you're sliding. Or
good point.
If you get too far on the other side, you slough off a little bit of an avalanche. So it's just awkward.
So those are the no fall zones, or just steep slopes where you just quite a few of those?
I mean, the biggest one is the Lhotse face.
Okay.
If you are not connected on the Lhotse face and you slip, you are dead.
Yeah.
With the exception of one person that I've ever known.
So you got to the top of Everest.
Got to the top.
And you're up there. And you're just taking it all in. How long are you up there for? And is there one particular thought that you have where you're like, holy shit, I made it. I'm the baddest motherfucker on the planet right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's foggy, right? And I thank God I have pictures to remind myself, because I can look at my face and I sort of remember what it felt like. But you're so delusional at that point. Lack of oxygen, lack of sleep, everything. But I will say this. So when I got to the South Summit, that was definitely kind of the summit celebration for me. Simply because I could see the summit. I knew it was happening. And I look over to my right and the sun's starting to come up, and I look over to my left and the full moon's like hitting the horizon, and I'm just like, does it get any better than this, you know? And totally started like tearing up, and I'm just like, holy shit, girl, you did this. Yeah. When, you know, so many people said you couldn't, and you know, people laughed at you when you said you were gonna do the 7 summits. Like, here you are in front of the pack, like rock on, right? And then I keep going and I get to the summit, and then at the summit it sort of becomes real, because yes, like I jumped up and down and like did a little dance, and like when I radioed down, I'm, you know, was just screaming. I swear I could hear myself on every radio.
This is Kim, I'm at the
summit, you know. And I'm sure, you know, our expedition leader down at base camp was laughing. You know, everybody was laughing. So there was definitely that moment of like, I'm here. But then it kind of turns to this: you're here. It's 5:04 a.m. You still have to go all the way down. You haven't slept in over 24 hours. Get a picture and get off. And then it was super apparent the minute I pulled out my cell phone to take a picture, it went from 100% to dead.
Of course,
instantly.
Of course.
Right?
I just think it's hysterical that the cell phone was with you.
Well,
but
it was I mean, I have a big SLR camera, but having your iPhone like in your inside pocket, it's the easiest thing to whip out when you're climbing, instead of like fiddling with
and
a big camera.
You're super familiar with it. I mean,
and it, you know, fits perfectly inside my down suit. So I pulled that out and then it was gone. So I got one super awesome photo, which was great. But then I go to pull out like my GoPro to get like, you know, a 360. No, that fucker just zapped instantly. I'm like, this is why I hate GoPro. This is why these things are useless to me. And then I pull out my SLR, and I had my batteries on me, and I put them in there, and it turned on for a second and then just like whomp. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
Polaroid.
So I wanted to bring a disposable camera, but I couldn't find one anywhere.
No way.
And when I had the thought, it was too late to order one on Amazon. So if anybody is listening that wants to go climb anything big where it's really cold, bring a goddamn disposable camera.
It's perfect.
Because they'll never die.
Yeah.
But so long short of it is I ended up staying on the summit with my climbing partner, Mingma, for 45 minutes to an hour, which is way too long. And we purely waited for the sun to come up a little bit more to snap some photos, and then quickly would snap them. And most of them are like, you know, it's just like my mouth down or nose up, or, you know, we got like 2 that actually have me in it. But
so cool. I'm just trying to put myself up there with you. Like, I'll take the picture.
I mean, it's pretty cool.
I'd be wanting to hang out forever. But that is the truth. It's like you get on top of these peaks and you want to just keep hanging out. And A, the weather's almost never there for you. But B, it's like just enormous feat just to get down. So
yeah,
that's so rad. You're definitely the only person I know that's climbed Everest. So.
Well, hot damn.
Oh, shoot dang, look at us. All right, let's backtrack a little bit and talk about Denali, because I think that story's pretty badass and really plays into just like making it happen and staying positive. But so on Denali, which in Alaska, for those listening, highest peak in North America, Kim broke her foot beforehand?
Yes.
Cutting a rug on the dance floor?
Correct.
Yeah.
At a wedding.
That happens.
It does.
All right. And then you summit Denali, which from what I understand is pretty technical in itself.
It's definitely technical, and it's just physically grueling because there's no outside support. There's no porters. There's no Sherpa help. There's no yaks. There's nothing. So anything you need on this expedition, you have to drag and carry up. So it's just it's an ass kicker.
Yeah. So you summit this bad boy, and then you're on your way down, as we were just talking about. It can be the most terrifying part anyways.
Hands down.
Yeah, coming down is always... It's like climbing about climbing a tree as a kid. You go all the way to the top in 2 seconds, and you start coming down, you're like, what the hell did I get myself into?
Yeah, how am I going to get down? Yeah, totally.
So you're coming down, and you slip, and get tangled in the rope as you slip, and break your arm in multiple spots.
Correct.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real kick in the nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, pain-wise, through the roof, or is it more just like... holy shit, now it's real. Now the pain isn't even here. Now it's just, I mean, I guess it's not a limb, it's an arm.
I mean, shock is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, totally.
The human body has an unbelievable ability to mask pain so you can get to safety. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing was, earlier you asked me, or I forget what you asked, but I said something about how, each mountain I learned that I'm not invincible, and kind of, I became, instead of being the naive, 20 whatever year old on that first mountain, now all of a sudden I'm dealing with some real shit. I broke my foot at this wedding, and I made a decision not to tell anybody. Except my brother. My brother knew, because obviously, we had to make a decision if I was going to go. And I just said, look, I would rather go and turn myself around and fail than sit on the couch and wonder if I could have, accomplished it regardless of my foot. So that's kind of, a decision that I had to sit with and know that I had the ability to turn myself around, which can be really hard when you're in the middle of a trip that you spent a lot of money on and time. And I knew that I was willing to do that. So, nobody on the team knew that my left foot was not just fractured, a chunk was broken out of.
Yeah, I saw a picture of it. It looked kind of
it
looked a little mangled.
It wasn't, it's not like a hairline fracture. It was like a full blown broken foot. So then to have this accident and, be laying across a crevasse just screaming, fuck, seeing my hand facing the wrong direction. Not only was I like, this really sucks, but I immediately was like, you have a broken foot and nobody knows about it, and this is not a good place to be. So when I did get the attention of our assistant guide and got me off of this crevasse, and we're assessing it, I'm like, dude, I can't feel my fingers. And so we make the decision to set my arm right there and then.
Oh my God.
Which honestly, it sounds awful, but I promise you, anybody in this situation would want to do the same thing, because to me, blood doesn't bother me, broken bones, yeah, they're gross, but that kind of stuff doesn't bother me. But when something is facing the wrong direction or doesn't look normal, And so for me, I'm like, if we can just get it facing the right direction and I can start to get some feeling back, I'm not going to panic. So he grabbed my fingers and I just yanked back and we pulled traction on that puppy, and I know, and it sucked. But again, I don't remember feeling the pain. I just remember feeling the relief of, okay, let's splint this and let's start moving. So that's what we did.
Have you ever heard of the book Resilience? I've mentioned it before in this podcast. You would love it. Or no, it's Deep Survival. I've mentioned both, but Deep Survival. You need to read that book, or at least jump into it. Because that mentality and attitude of, what you just talked about is essentially what the book talks about, where it's like, okay, you just have to face the reality of the situation, and get down. Nothing else matters. No. That's not going to help you.
No, panicking isn't going to fix anything. Freaking the fuck out, no. Crying isn't going to do anything. Just keep your shit together and move. Yeah. And that's what we did. And then eventually we got down to the 14,000 foot camp where there was a park ranger who had limited, I think pretty significant medical training. And we had a couple doctors on our team, and both of them were like, she's got to get off this mountain pretty much now, for fear of just losing function of my hand. So, of course, weather would move in as it does when you don't want it to.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get a helicopter to me for almost 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah. So that sucked. Because no pain pills, just ibuprofen. Because at that altitude, they don't want...
it's just throbbing away. The
just
arm,
throbbing.
Just massive pulse in the arm.
All I wanted to do was move, because when I was down climbing or moving, your mind is focused on something else and not the pain. But when you're just laying in a cot, Game of Thrones isn't going to keep you distracted. So then I got airlifted off and saw a hand specialist, and the rest was history.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it doesn't seem like you'll be... Hopefully you won't run into any of those situations in Australia.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Maybe roll an ankle.
which you can handle at this point.
Yeah,
you can have like your brother and your parents carry you at that point.
Right. I mean, I
take
run
the
my
chairlift
ankle
down.
Trail running almost every time I go, so it's fine.
Yeah. So have you ever heard of Cheryl Strayed with the book Wild?
Yes.
It might be time for a Kim Hess version, maybe?
You know, I'm working on a book.
Do you journal? Yeah, do you journal this stuff, or is it all upstairs, just in the head, or? I
have never considered myself a writer in the slightest. I always hated journaling, and I didn't have much luck on the first couple mountains. It wasn't until really Everest where I found the notes function on my phone.
That's how I roll.
Where I could just sit, and of course I just found the voice function, which I'm just like, come on, that would have been so fucking helpful. But just to be laying in my tent and be able to jot down just, a couple of thoughts really helped me write the blog surrounding like the earthquake year. I took some really good notes that I don't even now consciously remember, but to have them there has been great to kind of recreate the story. But no, most of it is kind of what's up in my head from the earlier expeditions, and then obviously bouncing what I think the story was off of my teammates, because it's interesting how everybody remembers it a little bit different.
Yeah.
Or how your mind has the ability to kind of switch the story to be a way that maybe you want it to be. Mm-hmm. So kind of going back and sort of interviewing old teammates to piece together my story. That book is in the works at some point.
I think it should happen.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
But the story's not done yet, so I can't.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I was about to wrap this up, but you're right. I forgot one major thing. The story is not done yet. Aside from the 7 summits, you've decided to add on the traverse of the North and South Poles, which is called the Explorers Grand Slam. Is that
correct?
Right?
Yeah.
So you're going to get... we don't want to chalk it up just yet with Australia, but it sounds like that's going to be, that's pretty certain.
Yeah.
But then you're going to go on and, cross-country ski basically across the North and South Poles?
That's the plan.
What's wrong with you?
A lot. I mean, it sounds awful. It's so funny. Everybody's like, why would you want to do that? I'm like, here's the thing. I don't really. I mean... I put
it on a post-it note, and then I told somebody.
I know. I said it once in an interview, and I'm like, God damn it, why did I do that?
Right.
And I think initially the idea kind of was born out of a sponsorship marketing angle.
Okay.
Because I was kind of trying to find, what is a reason that a company should give me money? The 7 Summits has been done.
Exactly. It's really hard to find something unique.
Right.
Yeah.
And I could care less about a world record or a title. To me, that's not important. But if that's how I can sell myself, then...
Right. This isn't just wasted time of climbing a mountain. I mean, there's nothing wasted just about climbing a mountain. But if you can obviously just build a career along with it as well. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You're already putting in the hard work. So.
Yeah. And, for me, I sort of feel like I'm selling myself to the devil. But it's getting me where I want to go. So that's fine. So that's kind of where the Explorers Grand Slam sort of came from. And I had kind of thought, well, I'll be climbing Vinson, the tallest peak in Antarctica. I should just add on, it's called the last degree, where a plane drops you off to the last degree and you literally skate ski for 7 days to the South Pole. And I thought, well, if I'm already there, I should just do them both. And then couldn't come up with the funding for it. And I was like, why would I do the last degree when I could just do the whole thing? That doesn't make it's, to me, and this isn't to discount a half marathon, but it's why would I do a half marathon if I could do the full, right? That's just how my mind works. Why would I only do it part of the way when I know I can do the full thing? So that happened. And, the 7 summits I was excited to do. I wholeheartedly love the sport. I love the people I meet. I love that I get to go to the most remote places on the planet and learn about these cultures and, feel so fortunate to get to do that. And for me, the North Pole and the South Pole, again, I feel so privileged to even be thinking about going to these places. But I think the poles kind of hold a different meaning to me. I think there's a bigger message that I can share about the poles. And I'm still trying to figure out what that is. But I almost feel like I have sort of a duty to go there and report back, if that makes sense. So the North Pole, I'm not really excited about it. It sounds pretty awful because you're at sea level, so it's humid, it's freezing. a polar bear can eat you because they're starving, because there's no ice and it's melting.
Yeah, it's not just out there drinking a Coca-Cola.
Right. And, the real danger of the North Pole is sort of exciting. It's the Arctic Circle is melting rapidly. And to be able to be some of the last people to actually get to ski it is something that would be so cool. But with that comes a lot of responsibility, I think, of sharing what's happening with the planet and how can I bring that to the attention of other people.
Right, and that's awesome. That's great. That's the full circle right there.
Yeah. So again, not really something I'm like, yay.
Yeah. No, that's amazing.
But it'll be fun for other reasons.
Yeah. Well, super cool. High
Yeah.
five. And anything you want to say to people listening out there? Any advice? Any one-liners? And you can steal Nike's "Just Do It" if you want. I mean,
I don't know. A couple takeaways. Like I said earlier, don't let fear stop you from doing something. Fear's a good thing. Listen to it, but don't let it run your life. And get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's where I have really grown and found myself as a person, is when I put myself in situations that suck and are really uncomfortable, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally. That's where the magic happens. So don't be afraid to go there.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming down to the beautiful Steamboat Springs Library. Not a bad spot to record a podcast.
I mean, we're just staring at like a playground of fluffy white snow.
Yeah, it's the Yampa River right there.
It's amazing.
How about it? All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much, and hopefully we can do it again once you've completed the whole thing. But if there's anything we can do to help you, please let us know, and we'll share this on our page, and yada yada. So,
cool.
Toodaloo.
Toodaloo.
The places